Those contractors you paid could cost you an additional 24% tax. My name is Paul Vasquez with Tax Lab. We help people save tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, and you can too. There is a web of enforceability surrounding 1099 income. Why is that? Beyond the additional income tax that 1099 income may generate, it can also generate self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is basically the employer and employee portion of Social Security and Medicare that you have to send out with those paychecks. So when you get that paycheck, you see the taxes taken out. Part of that's that FICA, the Social Security, Medicare taxes. The employee pays a portion of that. That's all you see on that W-2. The employer pays another double that amount on your behalf. As well, there's an unemployment tax that gets tacked onto that W-2. So this is where the web of enforceability begins to have real financial teeth to encourage the government to enforce this. And they've involved you in this web of enforcement as well. Now, in a way, the enforcement and how they rope you into the enforcement starts on your income tax filing. When you have any type of side income, they're going to have two boxes on the tax return. One says, should you have sent any 1099s out? You're going to mark yes or no. If you mark no and you should have marked yes and they find out, guess what? You're now on the hook for tax fraud or tax evasion. Most likely fraud because it's not that you failed to report. It's that they asked you a specific question and you lied about it. The next is another question on the tax return where they're going to say, did you send them out? So they've gotten wise to people trying to play word games with them. And they said, okay, well, if you were required and you should have sent them out, did you send out those 1099s? Now, part of that requirement is to not just send it out to the people who got the income of $600 or more, but also to the Social Security Administration. Why? Because they want to be able to keep track of Social Security benefits. And so those who are on 1099 pay a self-employment tax. That self-employment tax goes to increase your Social Security benefits. So there is kind of this forced savings element in the Social Security and Medicare that are going into that self-employment calculation. And so that puts the Social Security Administration on notice that they're owed some money, that this person earned that money, that's part of their Social Security benefits. Bottom line is you shouldn't hire anybody unless you get a complete W-9 from them. That includes the name that they're operating under, the tax ID number they're operating under, their address that they'll receive the 1099 at, the mailing address, and the third, their signature and date. So that's what makes a completed form. You want them to check the boxes that say what type of entity they are, because if they turn out to be incorporated, operating as an S-corp, then you don't have to do anything else, because you're on notice that because they're incorporated, these 1099's not required. But LLCs, anything else that's not incorporated, even partnerships, you're gonna have to send those 1099s out and collect that W-9 ahead of time. If you're hiring someone who's not legally supposed to be working in the U.S., if they're a non-U.S. citizen, you have to fill out what's called an 8-Ben, and that basically makes you, as the employer, testify that you, under penalty of perjury of court, that you know that they have the right to work in the U.S. It's going to ask you to collect certain data regarding their identity. After you have all that information, you should have everything that you need to send them that 1099 at the end of the year. You've got the tax ID number to report that. You've got their information. Now, under the rules, you are required by the law to ask them for a W-9. But they do not have to give you that information. This is why, once again, I encourage people to get that before they put themselves under an obligation to pay this person. So don't hire them. Don't put them to work for you until you get that information filled out and verified. So that way you're off the hook for additional enforcement rules that are going to apply to you. I know this is a lot. If you want us to help with this, that's where you want to sign up for our advisory services so we can go through with this on a one-to-one basis. We can help you get through the processes. If you want us to do it for you, this is where we figure that out. So sign up for that free introductory interview where we kind of see if our service is a good fit for you. So now, if you made the mistake of paying them before you got that W-9 back from them and it comes at the end of the year, you still want to submit that 1099 and the 1096 to the government. Try to send them their copy, even if it's not complete. What will happen is that the following year, you're going to get a notice saying you are now responsible for collecting backup withholding. The backup withholding is that 24%. So they're going to put you in charge of collecting that backup withholding from them and giving that to the government. If you don't hold that back from their pay, and you have to put them on notice, you can't just do this without notifying them that this is going to be done. After they've got the right notice, then you need to start taking that 24% out of what you pay, because regardless, you're going to be responsible for it. If you don't take that money out, you're going to be responsible for that additional 24% tax on what you've paid them. And once again, the issue is if you just don't report this, now tax evasion, tax fraud kind of issues stem up, and there's no hope for you. There's no hope for you in those situations. You are at their mercy, and you do what they say, you're in trouble. That's it. You got caught. Now, this is another area where there's some enforceability that's coming from a third party, and that's with the Unemployment Commission. Because of our recent issues where everybody was allowed to collect on unemployment, even the self-employed were allowed to collect unemployment, many state unemployment agencies are going around to businesses and trying to figure out if some of these claimed contractors aren't actually employees, where they can begin to collect unemployment taxes on these employees. So they're going to try to reclassify your contractors as employees. Now, yes, at that point, you'd have to do a W-2 on them, collect unemployment taxes on top of that. But it's gonna put you in definitely another notice that you have people who you need to be sending 1099s to. I encourage people to make sure that those who they are giving a 1099 to are not operating under a social security number, but operating under an EIN as an additional layer of protection for you. So that way, these unemployment agencies aren't going to be coming back to you to try to collect unemployment taxes, because that person has a separate EIN for their business that you're paying, and you're not paying them as an individual. So just kind of another layer of protection for you, the business owner. Get those W-9s, send out the 1099s. You don't want to be on the hook for an additional 24% of their wages. If you lie about it, once again, you can't claim that as an expense on your tax return. You're going to be paying their taxes for them. You're so nice to pay their taxes for them. On top of that, you could be responsible for the backup withholding, 24% tax. Don't be that nice. They should be paying their own taxes. This is Paul at Tax Lab. Hit us up, lab.tax, advisory services for more info.